We need in this country to create an awareness, even in the confusion, that more and more people in the private sector must support university endeavors. If you look at the next paragraph, it says, I hope somebody is showing. 3:1, where it says, Nigeria ordinarily should be a very noble, very puissant nation. But what do we have? Nigeria has been described as a mediocre nation with the world's smartest people. The world's smartest people are here, or from here. Now, look through the list I have made, because this is an academic environment. And when you see some of those names, it will be a challenge to you younger generation to add to the list, if not beat some of the people on the list. The University of Lagos, where we are now, used to be one of the world centers of expertise in her specialist field of chemical crystallography. Today, where is that? Ahmadu Bello University Zaria had the first world-class computer center in Africa. Where is it now? The University of Ife had a notable pool of expertise in nuclear physics. And I had classmates who were actually championing that, like Professor Luwale. Now, our tropical medicine, our development economics, and the historical sciences gave University of Ibadan an international reputation as a center of excellence. And note the fact that the Saudi royal family used to frequently use UCH for medical treatment in the 60s. Will they come now? And you find that it's now reverse osmosis. Those who are supposed to be given examples leave the land, even when they have the slightest headache. We also have situations where someone tells you, I have built a hospital that is world class, so that we're going to save some foreign exchange. Such a person has some headache, he abandons Nigeria and goes somewhere else. What happened to that university hospital? I would say that we have to note these things going forward, you younger children. If anybody says Nigeria is not great, tell them the history. It's just that the condition is making the crayfish to bend. If you look at our engineering scientist, Adelusi-Adeluyi, a graduate from Ahmadu Bello Zaria, he was rather troubled as a genius. I was invited by the Faculty of Engineering here to speak about him on the 10th anniversary of his departure. This man, Awojobi, tragically died of frustration because our environment could not contain, let alone utilize his talents. You must have heard of somebody called Ishaya Audu Shuaibu. He was a pioneer vice-chancellor of the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria. This man collected all the prizes at St. Mary's University Medical School in London. His successor in Zaria, Iyar Abubakar, was a highly talented Cambridge mathematician. He became a professor at the age of 28. So you young people, you have a standard to assess. He was a noted consultant to NASA. What did they leave behind? A gentleman called Alexander Animalu was a gifted MIT physicist who did work of original importance in superconductivity. His book, Intermediate Quantum Theory of Crystallized Solids, has been translated into several languages, including Russian. Now, Chikeobi, the renowned mathematician, interestingly, he solved The Fermat's 200-year-old conjecture using just pencil and paper, whereas his counterpart in Cambridge, also a mathematician, John Wiles, achieved the same feat with the help of a computer and a decade of working. So the Nigerian is very gifted, but what is being gifted if it is not utilized for self-improvement? The next paragraph tells you that after the harsh environment of the 1980s, the Bretton Woods instruments, that is to say IMF and World Bank, introduced these structural adjustment programs, and the military dictatorship undertook massive budgetary cutbacks in higher education. And therefore, the brightest amongst us fled the country. There was frustration, there was anger in the nation. Some of you are old enough would remember that in 1980, the dollar was 55 kobo. 55 kobo. Some of you can't believe that. Some of you who were old enough will know that flying to Kaduna, and I have a ticket to prove it, was about 32 naira. 32 naira? Going to Abuja now, in economy, is more than 13,000 naira. So the nation has actually traveled through troubled times. Therefore, the best and the brightest left the country. Today, ladies and gentlemen, Nigerian doctors, pharmacists, scientists, and engineers are making massive contributions in Europe and North America. Take someone like Philip Emeagwali. Philip Emeagwali went to a school called Aquinas College, Akure, because he was born in Akure, his parents working there. Left this country, but he went on to win the 1989 Gordon Bell Award because of his work in supercomputing. So it's possible if you're in Nigeria to still get out and prove to the world, because it is in our DNA. You'll be surprised how many so-called illiterate people are going around with super knowledge, super ability to learn. Those of us who are here must re-challenge ourselves instead of giving up. If Emeagwali can do it, we can do it. The young man from the north, Ade-Ajayi, was the one that designed the first electric car for the American automobile giant, General Motors. Olufunmilayo, a professor of medicine at the University of Chicago, won a MacArthur Genius Award for her work on cancer. And the one who was given a laureate, National Merit Laureate, Omowumi Sadiq of State University of Birmingham, owns patents for biosensors technology. And we can go on and on. But there's a familiar name here. You can see some of the details when you get the printout later. Emmanuel Okwambonwa earned a GPA of 3.98 out of a possible 4.0 as the best overall graduate of the Ivy League Johns Hopkins University. Therefore, Stewart Hendry, a Johns Hopkins professor of neuroscience, described this Okwambonwa as a young man who has an intellect so rare that it touches in the unique, that he is a personality that is once in a lifetime. There are people from the University of Lagos here who have gone on to do well. Adelusi-Adeluyi, for example, graduated with a perfect 5.0 GPA from this university. And so you find that all things being equal, Nigerians are to be respected, to be encouraged, and to form alliance with when it comes to academic performance. But our system is inclement to talent. And therefore, we are not able to celebrate in a very bountiful way all these successes in the area of endeavor. Nigeria is a country that punches below its own weight, politically, economically. None of our universities come near the top 500 in the world universities league table. And an estimated 50% of us, to be favorable, to be kind, live in abject poverty. And of course, youth unemployment is quite high. And once you start comparing all these per capita things, you don't laugh, you just pity Nigeria. Instead of saying Nigeria will hail thee, you may very well be more apt to say Nigeria will fail thee. As for the youths, when you look at paragraph 3.2, all the way, you will find that the population of this nation is heavily in favor of the youth. In fact, the median age for Nigeria is 18 years. So we have to concentrate on this group of people, encourage them, nurture them, and let them perform. Because there are some kind of fortune waiting to happen to change the direction of difficulty of Nigeria. Our median age in Nigeria is 18. Compare with a place like US that has 38, that's the median age, and Switzerland that has 42. So this massive youth population needs to be encouraged. And that's why endowments like this will encourage the professors and lecturers to also deliver well to the younger generation. When it's going to happen, I do not know. Because even in politics, where you have some countries having 39-year-olds as presidents, we still have 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds, still telling you, change. If for 70 years you haven't changed a bit, it's not when you are in the transit lounge. So I believe that this gift you have been given could be the beginning of a good revolution to save Nigeria from decay, further decay and decline. To saving us from the disaster of the first magnitude. And I've gone on to give more examples there. For example, I say Nigeria is ranked 77th out of 138 countries for capacity of innovation, blah, blah, blah. Capacity of innovation has to do with the ability to go into research and bring innovation. Now, if you are hungry as a lecturer and as a professor, innovation is not the first thing that is suggested to you. As we are told, the only way that God can appear to a hungry man is in the shape of food. It's only after he has had something to eat that somebody can settle down in some lab looking for some microbes. At the moment, most professors say to the microbes, well done, I don't have anything. But with kind of things we have here, we just might have an opportunity to start a revolution. You'll find, for example, that the amount of money we are spending on education from our budgets is rather low. If you go to the end of that presentation, the appendix, I have put some tables. If you look at table 1, for example. Yeah, table 1 is a comparative government expenditures on education relative to the total expenditure. Now, just look at the column that talks about 2005. It's been worse since then. You find that Kenya is doing 30% in education. And Morocco is doing 27%. Nigeria is doing 6. 1/6. Now, you cannot Pay peanuts and expect non-monkeys. 6.6. South Africa is 17.9. The UAE is 27. The United Kingdom is 12. US is 15. I think this is rather low. And in Nigeria, where everybody has to take care of himself, the only way we can make this happen is to rally around together and make a case for education. In Nigeria, there are too many problems. Everything is a priority. And unless you prioritize your own area of concern and interest, you get back to the backwardness. I would therefore say that it's about time that professors, in their own interest, do something. And what to do is what I have now enumerated in the next 6 or 7 points. I will go rapidly through that. For example, I said something about the tertiary education in Nigeria. What is the role for society? This is important because sometimes professors expect that because we are professors, everybody should know that they should support us. Again, when there are too many problems, nobody really gives any priority to professors. So what we have? I say tertiary education has a critical role to play in harnessing a country's human capital because it seeks to expand the frontiers of knowledge. It also boosts the capacity of the individual, as we have stated. But in general, it actively seeks solutions to the problems and challenges that afflict mankind. It's just a general statement. In most civilized nations, when there is a problem you want to resolve, you go to the relevant academic section, and they put their teeth and brains into it, and they come with solutions. Remember that when Kennedy was president, he reached out to the universities for research. If you will let us look at figure 3. Figure 3. Right, look at that figure 3. It's the expenditure normally gone through by universities. About 8 sources of exit. You have recurrent, and so on. You just look at all that. Staff development, student welfare, academic support, capital projects. That's from the lean funds that you have. But then you have research and development. Then you have the overheads, water supply, electricity, and so on. And it has been observed by way of statistical approach that less than 10% of what's available is given into research. And research is not a cheap effort, either by way of the environment, or by the equipment, or by the quality of the persons in charge of research. They need funding. So you see that the current situation can be made better. I will go straight to the third question. How do we overcome the financial challenges using PPP? How? And that's there. Public-private partnership, PPP, entails a public party, such as the University of Lagos, entering into a long-term performance-based contract with a private party with regards to the delivery of a specific agreed-upon service. And PPPs vary. And I've given you the 4 kinds of relationships you can have in a PPP. I have been privileged to work on behalf of the private sector with several universities. And sometimes you'll find that the universities or institutions you're working with do not think through the relationship. So that if it breaks down earlier than expected, everybody blames everybody. But if those 4 things I have said to you there, you look at, you then get to know that there are these four kinds of relationships. And I've now said that the PPPs are different from privatization in the sense that what they essentially aim at achieving is an improvement in financing in order to improve service outcomes without necessarily altering the balance of control. I'm the Vice Chancellor or I'm the Dean of the faculty and I'm having a PPP arrangement. It does not involve the outside party taking part in the control of the administration. It's not a privatization effort. In many countries, of course, public tertiary institutions also benefit from private donations, like we have now. Ideally, these are monies or gifts in kind which are given away with no financial benefit to the donor. No financial benefit to the donor, like we have here. She has given away 72 million. That's a lot. 36 to each faculty. We've been told that that wasn't enough to sponsor a professorial chair, but it's enough to make what's happening today happen. And what's happening today is more important than we envisage. It's not just another lecture series. It could be the foundation of such advocacy that will shed light on what's going on within the faculty, making it worth supporting. The next point is about regulatory frameworks and government enthusiasm for PPPs. They are very important. If the government is not in any way enthusiastic about your arrangement, it might fail. University institutions have all kinds of regulations with the Ministry of Education, with all kinds of gadgets. If they're not very warm towards it or they don't know much about it, implementation can be difficult. That's why I observe here that typically the most critical condition for successful PPP implementation is the existence of a robust institutional and regulatory framework. The US and Japan are top performers in this area, as well as India, which is an emerging economy like ours. China is also emerging as a top performer in this area. Some people wonder how China made it. China recognized the relevance of education to the population. If you think that the Chinese people coming here are the best in the hierarchy, you'll be deceiving yourself. A good Chinese will not leave China for anywhere. The best British will not come here for anywhere. Their best Americans will not come out. So what we're dealing with really is also wrong. But they come here, they lord it over us, because they are not only educated technically, but they've been educated in the philosophy of the nation. So they come here not only as teachers, but also as apostles of spreading the news of their nation. So I would say that that's what Nigeria also needs to look at. But the government may not be aware of this. Remember, there are very many research papers that have been done vis-a-vis education. I come from an institute called the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. We have more than 2,500 basic research papers on every subject having to do with Nigeria. The facts are there, but if the people who should implement don't even read it, you've had it. So the government themselves has to be made to be involved. If you look at that paragraph there, where I said in China, the distinction between for-profit and not-for-profit tertiary institutions is not clear. You read the rest of that when you get home. You will find that China, for example, has been highly successful. They have 604 PPPs performed in the first decade of this millennium. And the secret is the strong willingness and capacity of the Chinese government to carry out these PPP projects, and a friendly investment environment, and the sheer scale of the Chinese market for infrastructure There's nothing that the Chinese have that we don't have. What we don't have here is the willpower to get these things done. Business firms in China fund up to 13% of research in Chinese universities. It is, of course, considerably higher in Japan and South Korea. The next question we want to look at, because it's good to look at this PPP relationship with universities systematically, so we can live here speaking with authority about what PPP is and what the relationship can be and how we can exploit that combination. We say government must be educated on the essence of PPPs in financing public tertiary education. In order to attract private investors, the government must first sell its PPP strategy. You're all professors. If anybody can tell me what is the PPP strategies of this country, I'd be quite happy. We've done a research about it, and we know that a lot of work has to be done that. Government cannot sell a strategy about something whose benefits it is probably not aware of. If we wait for government to do it for us, it won't come. There are too many things to look at. Corruption, the judiciary, the NAS. But of course, you don't have to do any advocacy if it comes to dancing in the National Assembly or singing in the National Assembly. There's an advocacy about that already. But we must, as professors and academics that we are, think about this problem of ours. We are brilliant, we are ready, we are willing, we are wanting to do something, but there's lack of cash. Let's work it out, a document. If I'm needed for this, and it's what I do, I'll cooperate with any university on this. We need government to be educated about the relevance and usefulness of PPP arrangement. Now we also say that the next 163, PPP must be sustainable and quote and unquote bankable. You don't just wake up as a vice chancellor or a dean and say, look, well, that company is good, they want to give us money. Negotiate with them. Do the terms and conditions. Because the PPP is not just for your own term as dean or professor. It has to be enduringly arranged. Again, the conditions are there. I would say that, again, you read that particular one. Because you want to make sure that all the small prints are understood and read by you. Because sometimes there are some people from the PPP section who say to you, okay, we were with you maybe 3 years ago. The conditions are not being fulfilled. There will be exit plan. So all that has to be foreseen. And the terms of reference have to be clear, not only to you, but your successors. If you look at 6.4, the role of international organizations and development banks, yes, that is there. But we have found out that international organizations will support you if you already have local support. In other words, your track record is such that you are supportable. Now, number is 8. What did I say? Yes, 7. That's the 8th point we're looking at. And this is important. I want us to look at this because we're pharmaceutically involved. So I'll try and say some things about it in detail. This is about enterprise research collaboration. Enterprise research collaboration as a viable option for the Faculty of Pharmacy, University of Lagos. What do I mean? There are several different models of PPP. But the enterprise research collaboration is a creative PPP model that the Faculty of Pharmacy should find particularly interesting. Why? We'll find out. In this model, private sector partners such as operatives in the food, beverages, and pharmaceutical industries can support the faculty's research projects financially and build research centers or even pay for the specific consultancy services. Please note those ones. Now, food and beverage companies often have the need from time to time to review their product formulations or indeed extend their product lines. For instance, the very popular Guinness Stout currently has a new variant, the Guinness Stout Africa Special. This new variant is different from the original in that African herbs are said to have been incorporated in the original variant to create something even more distinctive and unique in taste. Bitters have also recently emerged as a relatively new class of drinks in the food and beverage sector, and they have sundry variants. This relatively new class of drinks, alongside its sundry variants, has also been the end result of hundreds of man-hours in product development laboratories. But such a product development may very well have been taking place in Faculty of Pharmacy of the University of Lagos, if the network existed. We don't have the network, we don't know what they're doing. They probably believe that if it is done overseas it's better. The mentality we have is that the more yellow somebody is, the more preferable they are. It is this colonialist mentality that's actually confusing the Nigerian system. Oh yes, I had my operation in Birmingham. What if I said I had it in Ikene? People don't feel good. So some of these food industries would rather do it outside. But if the university faculty had such network and contact with them and can show them that it can be done here, it can be done. Please note that. But this is just one example. There are lots of other examples and potential collaboration areas. There are, of course, lots of examples we can draw from the pharmaceutical industry. And the commonest, for instance, would be the growing inclination towards smaller dosage forms for tablets. That's an interesting thing to think about. Take, for example, co-Artem double strength, which ensures that patients are saddled with just half the number of tablets they would ordinarily have consumed for malaria. The single tablet 1 gram paracetamol is also emerging now to replace the need to consume 2 tablets of 500 milligrams each. Clearly, all of this has been preceded by product development research, which again, were we to get our arithmetic right, even students can be made to study and write theses on this. Take malaria, which remains a leading killer in Nigeria. It is interesting that current WHO approved drug regimen for malaria includes artemisinin, derived from the plant, of course, Artemisi, and first discovered by the Chinese scientists. But I have little doubt that the flora and fauna of Nigeria contains far safer and more efficacious substances than artemisinin. Now, dedicated research can help to unearth and use such substances. And the opportunities are here. If it's got to do with drug research, it's got to be the Faculty of Pharmacy. Nobody's going to bring it to you. You have to get out of the box and seek it. Matthew 7, verse 7 says, ask, and you shall be given. You must ask yourself as professors, have I asked? If you look at the opportunity in pharma excipients, now, in an earlier paragraph I said, in a society brimming with raw materials, why, for instance, would laboratories continue to use agar-agar for culturing microorganisms? The Faculty of Pharmacy can help to provide leadership in the research into cheaper yet equally effective local alternatives in these and lots of other areas. Then I was talking about this pharma excipients. One of the commonest excipients in drug manufacture is pharmaceutical grade starch. Then I go to explain that this could be done here. But some of us will say, look, we've tried it before, it didn't work. The environment is bad. Now, that is a lazy approach. And I would say that you must revisit such things. Please read that paragraph when you have time. If you look at 7.3, we're talking of clear policy guidelines that prioritize compensation for researchers as well as equipping of research laboratories. Simple. You can't be a successful researcher if there is no incentive. Why are all those names I mentioned earlier doing so well? Whatever they want, they get. A researcher here may not be that successful because you're going from here in this rainfall to Luth, your car has trouble. You don't have the gasoline to put in. Or somebody hits you from nowhere. Or the traffic itself builds up. Or some police fracker comes. Absolutely don't want to help you. In this country, everybody has his own kingdom. You make your own water. You take care of everything. Now, in that kind of mood, when you finally get into the research room, you just might rest a bit from the very hot place that has no air conditioner. 3 weeks ago, I was chairing an occasion at the NIA. We had invited someone from the University of Ife to show you how academia can be frustrated. It was a subject that we had thought only he could address. The occasion was for 4 o'clock. By the way, I congratulate the organizers who started on time. Punctuality can change this country. Please give them a round of applause for this punctuality. This occasion was 4 o'clock. We had given the man notice. He had told us in the morning he was on his way from Ife. All seated, nobody, no lecturer. We're going out and in. Where is this big man? Finally he arrives. Sweaty. Tie going east when he's going west. And he was then introduced. We expected him to say, sorry, and like professors, very bold. Ladies and gentlemen, I have no apologies. And we've been waiting. Now, naturally, he explained what happened. And what happened was simple. He left Ife at about 8 o'clock for a 4 o'clock appointment. The tire burst near Bongo. His pocket is not too loaded. The fellows who are repairing the thing are asking for the world. Finally, he gets it repaired and struggles to get to the gate of the NIA 5 minutes to 4. But you all know the NIA, the gate, just before him, but just behind him. They were both kind of at the same time arriving to enter the gate. The gate men pushed him aside because he was driving some Okada-ish car. And there was somebody in an impressive car with beads and so on coming for the same lecture. Of course, the gate man said, okay, get back. And he was trying to explain, I am the, just get back. Now the big man with beads and whatever was ushered in. After which he himself was then ushered in. Now, he wants to park. And of course he was told, go on. He doesn't know the NIA. At the end he was told, get out of the gate and you find a place. So he finally parked somewhere where some omonles said, well, you cannot do this, and give them some more money. So he entered. Now, here is someone who then entered into that hall, not the hall, you know, there's an anteroom. And he said, who are you, those nicely dressed girls? Who are you? I am Professor so-and-so, I want to give a lecture. Immediately 4 girls showed up trying to put something on the shirt. Come on, I don't want to, When he entered, nobody recognized him. When they knew, there were 4 or 5 people were trying to pin something on him. Okay, he agreed. When they pinned something on him, they carried trays. They said, get out. So he arrived, only to find in the front row the man with the beads. So he said, his first sentence would be, before he said anything, that Nigeria is done for. That I, a professor of 14, 15 years, am not recognized just because I'm judged by the nature of my car and dress. A country that is like that is in need of serious psychological repair. And I think, therefore, that those who are in research should be incentivized. And the incentives must be such that they are at international level. Nobody is doing anybody a favor. I also believe that the next point is that we must have a meaningful university-industry collaboration. You will find that in the last few decades, 2 trends in the research and development R&D of new medicinal products have been building throughout the last several decades. And this has culminated in the expansion of academic-industry partnerships. Please read that, and you'll know what I mean. There must be better collaboration. I also now say that PPP initiatives should begin from the simple before the complex. Don't go back to your laboratories now and start saying something happened in University of California, I want to do it here. You can't. It's like running a presidential system like the American system here without having the foundational support. And the result is what you are seeing. Start from the simple things that your students can, in fact, talk about, identify with, so that even when these PPP people come, and they have a way of snooping around and talking to non-professors. So let your students buy into it by making it simple. Starting out small will invite PPP projects. Next one I'm talking about is that PPP is about money being given to you. Therefore, you must make sure that you involve financial experts in the arrangements and the various needs to be done. I'm talking of, is that there? Yes. Need to be involved in the next paragraph. I'm saying in doing so, the Faculty of Pharmacy will need to do those 5 things. Those 5 things are important, and again, you can read them there. Again, these are things I'm writing from my own experience relating to people over the last 3 decades. It can be done. It should be done. And I think it will be done, provided we note some of these details. There is no doubt that PPP represents a key intervention that can help build and plug some of the gaps in the educational system. The Faculty of Pharmacy is located in a commercial center like Lagos. Throughout the whole of West Africa, Lagos is the place to be as a university. That's what Harvard is enjoying. That's what all those Ivy League things are enjoying, because in a commercial setting, no money is too small, nor is any too large. In our own days, if you stole 1 million naira, everybody says yeba. But now if you stole 1 million naira, what's wrong with you? It's now into billions, if not trillions. But nothing is too small. Even somebody with 1 billion naira, it can go to fill some little space. What you need is an expert within the faculty that has an eagle eye, and a marketing eye, and a PR eye. Now, going forward, I think we should take some points home. I say to you that there is an imperative for Nigeria to develop a proper PPP strategy that you can follow yourselves. If you need help, let us know. We think the policy will need to address specific objectives such as improving the quality and relevance of tertiary education in general. We think the policy should support the idea of university business incubators, and science parks. Go to Ethiopia, you'll find that there's now a business village in a place called Hawassa, where they brought a whole lot of people, industries from all over the world. Read about it, Google it. Now, we should be able to start that kind of thing for endowments in tertiary education. We must all bear in mind that if we are not to be completely left behind by the rest of the world, then the time has come for us to aggressively take another look at our approach to funding tertiary education, and indeed education as a whole. The time has come for us to examine and adopt creative approaches, just as PPP, which have shown demonstrable usefulness in other parts of the world. And as we are coasting home, I want you to address your mind to some final thoughts and questions. It was Donald Bren that about 6 years or so ago observed as follows. And he said, future public education will require involvement and collaboration among various local, civic, private, and non-profit entities. And this is a concept that I refer to as community entrepreneurship. Now, Faculty of Pharmacy as a profession is the only scientific profession that has a commercial industrial window. And therefore, community entrepreneurship is very relevant. Blessed will be the professor who can think of this, apart from the big books that we have been using for ages, and bring out new ideas in marketing and in relation with private organizations. Let me ask you these 6 questions for you to take home. The first question is there any hope that the flow of funds from the government to the universities will increase or in any way be better than what it is now? I think the probable answer is no. How then? Have to say, oh, I think they're saying nonsense, but there's nothing you can do about it. Therefore, we have to democratize education. These haves and have-nots, there's a lot of now complaints. Even with the so-called faith-driven universities, poor people can't get there. The poor are getting more populated. And the poor people know the addresses of the rich people. Look at the French Revolution in the late 19th century. First of all, people will say, oh, I didn't do anything, so I don't think any poor man will come and see me. No lie. When the anger swells, it's like the flood that went and did not discriminate. So you professors must also look at the possibility of that looming danger among the younger generation. I also say to you, question number 3. In 2011, the expense on tertiary education by Nigerians in the USA and UK was about 30% of the total sectoral allocation to education in the total budget of that year. The figure may be much more if expenses in other countries, including those in Africa, were taken into consideration. Now, could we have used this money better if we adopt the principle of community entrepreneurship? All the money Nigerians are using all over the place. Question number 4. This can be touchy. Okay, you say you don't have money. But how efficiently are the universities appropriating the resources that are currently available to them, albeit inadequate? Question number 5. The pharmaceutical industry in Nigeria, as currently constituted, is a challenged profession. It is commerce-driven, buying and selling. The faculties of pharmacy can make themselves attractive for funding with their basic research activities by churning out new or altering old molecules to combat old and emerging diseases. Question number 6. There are some 17 schools of pharmacy in Nigeria today. What about the quality of teaching? Do we have enough pharmacy teachers, quality teachers, to cater for the need of these schools? Do we have a situation where some 85-year-olds are still professing? Do we have analog professors teaching digital students? We may have to invest in the recruitment and training of more pharmacy teachers. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, Nigerians, especially we pharmacists, are challenged. We must adopt a renewed, a positive attitude to our challenges. And as I always say to my friends, the best help is self-help. Nobody is going to wake up in the morning and say, as the profession of pharmacy is doing so well, please let it do so well as to be better than my own profession. Nobody will say that kind of prayer. Only we. But in the midst of it all is the individual. The individual and his mentality. Today we talk of Coca-Cola. The pharmacist John Steve Pemberton, born in Knoxville, Georgia, created it in 1886. Today nobody hears about him. He just saw it as some kind of mixture. And when he couldn't cope with the marketing, some bright businessman bought it off him. He is still referred to as the founder of Coca-Cola, but he's not there. Today, we have pharmacists who are the most successful bankers, successful in telecoms, successful in oil and gas. They have not given enough to their profession because they are not challenged by their profession. Something must happen to the curriculum such that everybody who is a student for 5 years has something to talk about. Only this morning, some doctor was speaking at a TV program, and they were asking about pharmacists and doctors. Naturally, he has to defend his own territory. Nobody will defend your turf for you. That's why I'm saying only pharmacists can help pharmacists. And they asked, you say that people go to chemists. And then he said, well, that is wrong. And they asked him, what about for headaches? What is he? He said very clearly on that television program that pharmacists are trained to dispense. End of story. Now, I can't spend 5 years learning how to dispense and then do this and do that before I can become a pharmacist. But who is going to say it for you? Only pharmacists can prove this by what they do, in academia especially. And also getting those students to be proud of what they are doing so that when they get out, if we are to make any progress moving forward, we must raise our gaze. We must think globally, reading from the various journals and social media, but act locally with local impact. The role of individuals is very important. The individual must attract what he expects. The individual must reflect on what he desires. The individual must become what he respects. The individual must mirror what he admires. That's the only way to be a respected individual. It is the greatest of all mistakes to do nothing simply because you think you can do only a little. Please listen to me. Do what you can. Realize that most changes in the world history started with the acts of just one person. One person can make a difference. Many people know what to do, but are afraid or reluctant to make contributions. I don't want to offend my dean. I'm expecting a promotion. Some, out of cowardice, will ask themselves, is it safe? Some, out of expedience, will say, is it politically right? Some out of vanity will say, is it popular? So they are in their shell. Be a man, be a woman, be yourself. Make yourself relevant. Make yourself known. Opinions expressed by others about you are just that, opinions. You are the one that knows the reality on the ground. Seek what is right, and as an individual, be noted for forthrightness. That's the only way you can help yourself and your community of pharmacists. And I'm appealing to every professor, every student. When I was president of PANS, I know that we were not very popular with our lecturers. But we knew what we wanted, and we knocked the door until the doors were open. If you students have problems finding the key to the door, give me a ring, I'm just a call away. Remember that knowing the truth and not doing it is as foolish as writing a love letter and not mailing it. I now say to you that somebody who acted on his own too was called William Shakespeare. He lived from 1564 to 1616. An English poet and playwright, an actor, a dramatist, the greatest writer in English language. He wrote 38 plays, he wrote 154 sonnets, he wrote 2 poems and several other essays. One of his most important works was Julius Caesar, which I quote now for your own purpose. Julius Caesar, Act 4, Scene 3, lines 218 to 224, where Brutus said to Cassius as follows: there is a tide in the affairs of men, which taken at the flood leads unto fortune. Omitted, the voyage of their life is bound in shallows and in miseries. On such a flood are we now afloat, and we must take the current when it serves, or lose our ventures. Unquote. Therefore I say to you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that the kind of donation of Mrs. Frederica Abimbola Aina Omalolu Mulele has opened the doors for us of greater partnership possibilities. I say to you, the tide has come. I say to you, let us together take the opportunity of the flood. I say to you, let us ensure that our strategies going forward lead to fortunes. Within the Faculty of Pharmacy of the University of Lagos and beyond. Let us, ladies and gentlemen, together make PPP a game changer to make the Faculty of Pharmacy relevant, to make it a source of quality laden products, to make it a pride to all stakeholders. And when we are afraid, let us say, a luta continua, victoria asserta, vinceremus. So God help us. Thank you very much.